All right, so I'm sharing it, but I want to share it differently. Hold on one second. Share screen. Yeah, that's what I want to do. All right, so you can see my entire screen.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you can see like the post and all this.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. I'll just edit it, post, and then people will be able to see it. Yeah, so to fill everyone in, there are Facebook group pages that we as therapists utilize for ideally networking and connecting with other therapists, referral sourcing, and sometimes some peer supervision, which can blow up in your face, apparently. So initially, I need to just not even step on anonymous posters. I think if we're posting stuff, we should use our names. I don't like the anonymous thing. It kind of irks me. But so an anonymous member from this Facebook group page posted a question. I'm a female therapist and I have several male clients of various age ranges. I've gotten feedback, parentheses, not from clients, and it's not appropriate to wear a skirt, parentheses, nothing short, barely above the knee during session. I'm curious what others think. So as I read this, I am thinking about the client, their experience with this. Obviously, dress code and skirts and women's rights and all these different like macro philosophical issues could be sparked from this skirt question. Yet my motivation in sharing not actually even my opinion as to what this person should do, but my experience was something similar. Because I began to read some of the comments and I was like 50-50 even posting. But there's something in me that just, I don't like echo chambers. I don't like, I would prefer experiencing being attacked than to sit by the wayside and see some kind of conversation go a completely different direction than I believe to be just or accurate. So I sacrifice my own psychological well-being sometimes. So I share this experience, and I'll read it and I'll emphasize. So I shared something. What did it say? I interviewed for a group practice once and can say sitting face to face with a woman in a skirt can be distracting. Don't think it's patriarchal. Just think it's biology. Also not trying to offend anyone. Just think it's important to share my experience in a therapy office. So this was when I was interviewing for a group practice. It was like a 1099 and they were taking a huge split. So I ended up not going that route. And granted,
you were interviewing as a potential therapist to work there?
Yes.
As the interviewee. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was interviewing and immediately, the woman was attractive. I was attracted to her. And it was probably an extreme example because she actually, throughout the interview, adjusted her dress maybe 5 to 10 times to make it go lower. So it was like the dress was literally riding up her legs. So
as she was sitting down?
Yeah. And she was wearing heels. It was just like weird. I don't know. I was distracted by that. I wasn't thinking about fucking her in the office, right? I think the term distraction could obviously mean a lot of different things. But basically, from what I shared, I tried to share my experience as a male being one-on-one in a room with a woman in a like therapy kind of dynamic. And tried to say, I'm not trying to offend anyone. This is just my experience. And so that activated a lot of fucking people on here. So, hey, we could just pull them up.
I found some of the comments to be utterly wild. I mean,
and abusive.
well, and abusive. Yeah.
So
But,
the top one is thank you for proving our point.
but I wasn't sure what the point was because I don't know what this lady said in the beginning. Like, what was her point?
The anonymous person, I don't think she had a point, but I think what people read into is that some overseer was demanding what they wear and not wear at work. And then they go into like the history of being sexualized by men and being oppressed. It gets into like all these different really macro level social equality arguments.
Okay. So like, because one of the top comments was men love to control women.
By a man.
No, there was a female who made that comment.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Sarah Matthews. Men love to control women.
Yeah, let's name drop.
I'm just referencing it. I don't know who she is. And I don't have anything against her. I'm just reading.
I saw a male write that. I thought that was are you sure it wasn't a male? Okay, that was Sarah Matthews.
Unless it's some dude named Sarah.
Hey, changing the name.
I mean, she has a last name Matthews, so maybe that's what you honed in on.
Okay.
Okay. And then so
my response to thank you for proving our point is a male perspective is probably important given she's asking about male clients. I don't see how this is so insane of like a construct.
No, and I don't think you were trying to control anybody because it doesn't sound like you told the woman to go change her outfit.
I didn't tell her to do anything. I said, this is my experience.
Yeah. Yes. So like, as I was reading the comments to your post, I had sort of that reaction. It's that John C. Reilly meme where he's got the very confused look on his face.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I was reading it. I was very confused by why there would be fellow therapists who don't believe there should be dress codes for being practitioners in a therapy office. That to me is wild. And I also find it wild that some therapists have this viewpoint of I can do whatever the fuck I want to do and you're just going to live with it. And that doesn't make any sense to me because I think you were making a good point that we need, when we make any decision within the container of a therapy office, which is a highly sacred ground, we need to be mindful as to the best of our abilities, right? Because we're all fallible. To the best of our abilities, being mindful of what the client experience is going to be.
Yes.
And if I show up
therapy
exactly, how is me showing up in Daisy Duke shorts and a bra top? And that's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But Daisy Duke shorts and a bra top going to be therapeutic for any client, male or female? It's not. It's distracting. Right. I don't go to the dentist and the dentist comes in wearing a Speedo and a lab coat, or the chiropractor standing over me wearing, a Speedo. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right. And this isn't your husband saying, don't leave the house without wearing ankle length skirts on, right? This is a different context. This is literally, how do I show up as opaque as possible to a client?
Yes.
And they don't even know what like therapeutic opaqueness is, obviously.
They don't. And
and the importance of being opaque to a client. Maybe we should share that with them.
Yeah. So there's some definite concerns I have with, there's like I have two streams of concerns. On a macro level, broad strokes, grand scheme of things, I'm concerned about many of these therapists' judgment and lack of ability to see a decision from a client's perspective. But then interpersonally, the other stream is how abusive it became towards you, that you were somehow a pervert who, they're acting like you did something untoward in the scenario you wrote about. and the accusation that you should go get therapy because you found
my
a
God.
woman in a short skirt distracting. That's
So
bonkers
apparently,
to me.
Yeah, we need to give some a shout out to someone who seems to be a solid therapist here, Tess Opal.
I'm gonna have to lean in, so if my face looks large on film, it's because
Ray Lee Lane, Evan Miller. The fact that you think the problem is that is a male perspective speaks volumes. We love hearing from men that have done the work. You clearly aren't one of them, but that's your choice and you have the right to be that way.
Well, what is the work that you're supposed to have done? I mean, so you're not, so like you're supposed to like cut off your balls and be asexual? I don't know.
Right. So, you know, the other ironic part of this is women, I'll probably piss some people off here. Well, whatever. Women, they utilize this ability to attract males, right? So women all know what they can wear that will increase attraction from males. What they want is a perfect world where they can program all men to either turn that on or off. And that's not an on or off switch for a male's brain. So you go out to dinner and you wear a skirt because you want to be attractive to someone that you're dating. You go into a therapy office and you wear the same skirt. You don't get to say, oh, I don't want to be perceived as attractive in this setting. Therefore, your brain is not allowed to perceive it that way. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. No.
So you're on one breath, you're acknowledging, yes, this garment increases attraction for the opposite sex. Yet on the other breath, whenever it doesn't serve you, you're upset about it and you act like it's oppressive.
That's
very confusing.
Exactly.
To me.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That is very confusing and seems to communicate a lack of understanding about sexuality.
Right.
And as though sexuality is dangerous and bad.
Correct. And it's really projection, right? Because these women have probably had sexual trauma histories and they're perceiving being sexualized as dangerous. And if I am to acknowledge attraction, then it is potentially aggressive and dangerous for them.
But that's an interesting use of the word sexualized, because I think in this example you provided, you use the word distracted. To me, being distracted is not like they're assuming you sexualize the woman, right? That's the assumption.
Right.
But to me, to sexualize somebody would mean that something happened after noticing
Correct.
a skirt and being distracted by it.
And the term distraction is actually what I'm talking about previously, where it's my attempt as a male to turn that off. That's the distraction, is that I'm having to turn that off over and over again while trying to be present.
Yeah. I think for women, it's probably easier to just, well, maybe not. That's a broad generalization. I can't say that. But I think then this weaponizing recovery language, like doing the work and you have not done the work.
Yeah.
That is just like, that to me is a hallmark of enmeshment dynamics, right? And codependency, if we use the pop culture term.
Mm-hmm.
That's a control pattern. She's trying to control your words.
Right. And it's, you don't share my perspective, therefore you are of a lesser awareness than I am. And then you need to exercise more conscientiousness to get into my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the woke culture. You're woke or you're a fucking idiot.
It's so binary though, right?
You're woke or you're like a disgusting white male. Yeah, so Tess Opal, she actually stood up for me here. I haven't read this. Your response is a little aggressive. Regardless of what you think, arousal is out of our control. All we can control is how we react to it. Experiencing arousal and how that can impact his and anyone's focus is valid. No need to shame him for that. And then Someone said the girl wasn't being aggressive, so Tess responded again. Her response is aggressive and is designed to shame him rather than acknowledge his perspective and experience has value. Reading the comments, most of them have been along the lines of men are the issue, which isn't fair. As clinicians, it's important to acknowledge how we dress and the potential impact it has during session. Not saying we need to alter anything, but to simply say it's the client's problem or a men's problem is wildly unfair and to me personally goes against the role I play as a therapist. Additionally, transference, they don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Has a large role in therapy, and speaking about any sexual feelings held by the client can be beneficial. Shaming them for it is not.
Well, thank you, Tess, for being the voice of reason.
And then you just see a bunch of like deflection.
Oh, and then that's ridiculous. And that same woman comes back and says to Tess, the fact that you called that aggressive says everything I need to know about you. I mean, come on. There's just a
and
lack
then the
of critical
projection
thinking
of
here.
You comment to Evan seems to indicate that you think your perspective is the only right perspective. It's like classical projection. It's like, that's what you guys are doing. That's why there's a comment thread on this.
And then she goes on to say to the aggressor, clearly you have a little more work to do around your judgments of others, but it's your choice how you want to show up, and you also have the right to be that way. So she uses her words against her.
I bet these women also have a bunch of male exes that are narcissists.
Or autistic. Yeah.
And then there's the one where I should go to therapy.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, here we go with the aggressive therapists. Tess is really bad, going for bad up here. Holy shit.
You got a private message Tess and tell her thank you for her objective and reasoned responses. Yeah, it's the bullying. That's what's so shameful about this. I mean, it's one thing to argue two different points of view, but then when it becomes
they try to shame
ad
you.
hominem attacks, so such a cognitive bias, that's what's so shameful and very, very, it's just despicable.
Yeah.
The lack of self-reflection is what I find very concerning. I mean, these are not Facebook groups to bully people, but clearly they're being used that way.
Yeah. And then there was someone that's like made a comment.
Wait. What did you write? The risk I will continue to take. Wait, stop. Yeah, there you are.
Oh, yeah.
I will continue to take.
Yeah, I can't hear you when you're reading it.
I have to turn sideways to read. Okay, so let me turn the mic. The risk I will continue to combat.
The risk I will continue to take.
To combat the often echo chamber on these pages. I shared my experiences and didn't imply what the one posting should do. Now the angry piranhas have decided to come out and feed while hiding behind their screens.
I was just done at that point.
I don't blame you.
Some other woman actually, she made another comment where apparently like a gay female therapist responded similarly in a different post recently and it was received much differently.
I tried to wrap my mind around that one, and that's where I had the John C. Reilly meme go through my head. It was so
well, she
convoluted.
was saying that in defense of me.
Oh, okay.
Like I think there's reader bias. So these women are responding to me much differently because they see that I am not only a white male, but an attractive white male. I think that sounds really egotistical, but that is different. I am perceived as more threatening because of my attraction.
Really?
Telling you. Yeah.
So what are you supposed to look like? Quasimodo or something?
I mean, women are going to be more threatened by an attractive white male than an unattractive white male, for sure. They view me as like a very privileged, I walked through life on a red carpet.
Okay.
And that I need to just shut the fuck up, basically.
But if you were like 300 pounds and
so it would be very different. Mm-hmm.
Then you're less threatening?
For sure.
Because they could more easily dismiss you.
Yeah, I'm harmless.
Interesting.
And they can feel better about themselves because they can perceive themselves as more attractive than me.
As superior and okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of people actually did come out and defend and like had some therapeutic responses and abilities to conceptualize.
Okay, so as you think about this entire experience, what stands out to you as the worst of it for you?
Here, let me stop sharing. The worst is saying something and then it being misconstrued in such a way to then define me as like a creepy, ignorant, entitled person.
Okay.
Because it's also so contrary to who I am. In the reality, I'm a more self-aware male than most men they know. Mm-hmm. And I understand like oppressive experiences and systemic effects based on gender or sex or race more than most men. And I believe those things, right? So I understand all these things that are being like conceptualized. I understand it conceptually and intellectually, and I've studied those things.
And I think you also understand it experientially too.
Yeah.
You mean, yeah.
Within like justice system and my own trauma and all those types of histories. Like I've definitely experienced depression for sure as well. Mm-hmm. So that's the hardest part is the depiction is actually just a 180 from my actual character and the kind of work that I do with clients.
Yeah.
But
So
I think it speaks to the lack of awareness from therapists and realizing what their activators are and what their trauma experiences are, and being able to be self-reflective enough to not bring that into session.
mm-hmm. And I think that's the harm, right? Because if they're not self-reflect, if they don't do self-reflection on a regular basis and are unaware of what their triggers are,
because they were obviously activated, right?
And they're walking around in an activated state. If they're so quick to shame you for an innocuous post that just offers a third party perspective
of my experience,
that makes me exactly your personal experience. That makes me frightened for the therapist. I mean, for the clients that they see.
Right.
Because like, what if they had a male client and the male client's gaze, locked in on like her footwear? Now she's going to like attack him and say, "Oh, you're a creepy pervert who's got a foot fetish. Get the fuck out of my office."
Yeah. Or if they like compliment her necklace or whatever.
Yeah.
That's going to activate them. If my comment activated them, that will definitely activate them. And then how are they going to show up in therapy?
I think we need to do an episode for the general public on how to screen for therapists and how to interview for therapists, how to screen for therapists when, shopping around to get into psychotherapy. Because I have a very personal experience with a consultant, an EMDR consultant, when I was pursuing my EMDR certification. And she turned out to be, for using a non-clinical term, she turned out to be batshit crazy. Mm-hmm. But she did a good job presenting up front as stable. But as I was presenting my cases for EMDR certification, she was becoming grossly activated and attacked me personally for what she perceived to be like a lack of intervention or a lack of certain process questions being asked to further the work for the client, without recognizing that, she's not there in the room with me. I'm the one with the therapeutic rapport. And it was wild. And I began to realize this woman is walking around in a damaged state, damaging other people, specifically clients. And if I was wounded by her, and I have a lot of affect tolerance and a lot of emotional regulation skills, I can only imagine the clients who are more vulnerable being, dare I use the term, traumatized by her. Mm-hmm. She was grossly unhinged. And I was shocked completely. It was, but that's my own naivete, right? Now there was, and this shows you the work I have had to do since then. But when I first interviewed with this EMDR consultant, there was a red flag. And the red flag specifically was she had this kind of oddball tone, this like slightly judgy tone. And she asked me what my intention is in pursuing EMDR therapy. And I don't know what I answered. I honestly don't. But her retort to whatever I answered was, well, I just want to make sure that you're not here to just, check the box and get the certification. And there was something awkward in how she made that childish remark that later when I reflected upon it, because it gave me kind of the ick, and I was like, I dismissed it, and that was my fault. Because
Is that where you've talked before, where people elicit testing behaviors to create power differences?
Yes, I think that was testing behavior.
Something to like keep you on. It reminds me of whenever I did that consult last year with the woman that like shamed me for my age, but it was like a subtle thing to where I was immediately on my heels unexpectedly. And you're like, wait, what? And you start to like feel insecure, really.
Yeah.
Like dismissed and insecure in that moment.
Yes.
And that's right where they want you.
That's right where she wanted me to feel awkward and kind of slightly on the back foot. But what it told me when I later reflected is that she had a pattern of failed consultant and consultee relationships, which parallels something she admitted, where she has a series of failed therapist and client relationships, because she has talked about many times how she's had to refer clients out for various reasons. Like I had this one client I was using as a case example, and the woman had a personality trait, personality adaptation of being very moralistic. We've seen that. We've seen that time and again. You get these clients who kind of ride the high ground and they have morals, and they're like, I'm very moral and everybody else is immoral. Mm-hmm. That's something we can deal with in therapy. That's not a big deal. But the consultant was saying, no, you have to get rid of her. Get rid of her. You can't deal with that. That's, you cannot work with those kinds of people. You just need to get rid of her. And like, that was kind of like her language. Like, I'm just dropping the trash off at the side of the road.
Because she had negative experience of those client archetypes.
I think so. Yeah. And I think she was projecting that onto me and assuming that wasn't something I could work with, or that we could address in EMDR therapy. And that was bananas to me.
Yeah. I mean, that doing any kind of therapeutic work, whether that's with the client or the supervisee, takes a large amount of self-reflection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's twofold as a supervisor, where I have my own bias towards client, and then I have my own bias towards supervisee. So it's a double iteration of bias.
Yeah, definitely.
So like my bias towards the supervisee could then funnel down to the client, or my bias towards the client could funnel up to the supervisee and then into our dynamic.
Yes. Yes. I think when people get that little queasy feeling, that gut instinct, you've got to really meditate on that and figure out what that's about. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had done that, because that would have saved me both time and money.
Yeah. But I think too is, we have to be self-aware enough as to how much work we need to do and where we are in our own self-reflective process, because given a different presentation, we can misinterpret those guttural reactions and it not actually be a sign of danger.
It could be a sign that you do have a bias, an unfounded bias. That's true. That's why I think you got to really meditate and figure out where that bias is coming, where that ick, that queasy feeling is coming from. Because you're right, in session, that could be therapeutic gold, right? Like if I have a client and she's got some foibles that are just kind of like antisocialish, but yet she's complaining about not having a lot of friends, but she's giving me kind of that, ugh.
I don't want to be around this person.
Yeah. I mean, I can use that to like help her self-reflect upon what is she putting out there that might be causing people to reject her inadvertently.
Yes.
as opposed to me being like, ugh, she's giving me kind of that gross feeling. I need to cancel her as a client and send her on her way with 3 referrals. That's damaging. But you're right. Absolutely. You've got to reflect. We have to reflect upon our biases. And that makes me recall like something, the clinical director of my graduate program was describing one day in graduate school. And she was saying, you have to know what your biases are. Mm. And she was very honest. She was talking about, women in hijabs or, traditional Muslim garb as being a bias for her, right? Because when she sees women dressed like that, she automatically thinks they must be highly oppressed and abused at home. And that's not necessarily true. And so, right. They have to think about, if a woman showed up in a session wearing a hijab, am I going to really start talking to her about domestic violence? I mean, that's not necessarily relevant, right?
Or terrorism.
Or whatever.
So, I remember where I was on September 11th. She's like, what the fuck? I wasn't even born yet. I'm 20. Would that be?
Yeah.
And exactly. They were all Saudi anyway.
So assuming other people's experience is just, it's not therapeutic at all. And I think that's what happened to you in that session, in that Facebook group, is
because I was responding
your experience.
Client-centered.
Say again?
I was responding client-centered.
Yeah.
And it's just wild. It's wild that we think we need to assert ourselves into the therapist room. I just don't understand it. I don't get it.
No. It's so domineering.
Also, too, you wear some kind of short skirt to therapy, and you're responding to me like this based on my experience shared, and a guy does make a comment about it. You're going to rupture that relationship. Right? Mm-hmm. Like imagine the women that are activated by my strictly experience sharing, mm-hmm. going into their own shame because they probably have sexual trauma and sexual harassment histories and being objectified. So it's activating their own sense of shame. So then they create rage responses to prevent and protect from experiencing that shame. So the rage reaction is towards me. I'm the enemy. He needs to shut up. He's not right. He's this awful white male that's just, whipping his big dick around. Mm-hmm. All of those thoughts fuel their rage. So if you're in a session and you're this woman and someone glances down at your skirt or makes a comment about your outfit or expresses his level of attraction to you, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
are you going to be able to shut all that out?
That's the danger,
and that's not wrong. That is not wrong for a client to do that.
No, because the
if
danger
a client
is
says I'm attracted to you,
the female therapist stands up and says, get the fuck out, and then
if a client says that they're attracted to you, that represents a lot of emotional trust. In most cases, like in some, it could be manipulative and domineering, but I think in most cases, someone acknowledging that would be vulnerable for them. Because men do not feel empowered in therapy.
What
generally. Like, I don't think it's a place where we feel like powerful. We're not supposed to be there.
Oh, okay.
So our front foot into therapy, we feel vulnerable. We're supposed to be the breadwinner that doesn't have feelings, that fixes everything and doesn't need any support. So oftentimes a male entering therapeutic dialogue, they feel pretty insecure and fearful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and I think that's why, as a female therapist, I want my male clients to feel comfortable. I want all my clients to feel safe. Of course, I want all my clients to feel comfortable too. But
not the white males, though. Fuck them.
Yeah, but but I'm still going to be mindful about what I put on in the morning, and I have done that. I've changed my outfits before. I think about my client list, and I'm like, oh, great. I have 3 male clients today. Maybe I don't wear the knee-length dress and the open-toed sandals.
I've done that with female clients where, Eli used to tell me, I think he was in grad school or something, and someone had shared that they realized they were dressing differently for certain clients. And I was like, oh shit. And so like, I always go through this checklist when I have clients that I just have like a general attraction to, where I'm like, is this something that I would wear yesterday? Or am I like catering or adjusting, trying to look better for this client than another? And that could be from like sexual attraction or like status, or perceived status of the client. Like all this stuff can impact the way in which I dress. And then I have to say like, oh no, I need to like be uniform in my approach as to what I'm wearing. So it doesn't have to always even be like a sexual component.
Oh, absolutely. That's an interesting point that you bring up, because you're right. We might, as therapists, change our dress based upon the status, our perceived status of the client too. And we want to see, come across as like of equal status. Absolutely.
And sometimes it's therapeutic, right? Like if I have adolescents, sometimes I'll dress down. I've been in the habit lately of just dressing down in general, actually. Showing up in my little yoga pants.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'll just dress down for everybody. Everybody gets the
the
dress down
look.
version of Evan.
I had this 80-year-old, like 80 some odd year old client come in one morning, and I was wearing like an ankle length dress, but with open toed platform kind of espadrille like sandals. So they're not heeled as in like a narrow heel. They're heeled in the sense that they're platform, so they were elevated, right? But they were open toed. And the first thing she says, she doesn't even say good morning. She doesn't say how are you. She doesn't even allow me like an opportunity to say good morning or how are you. And she goes, oh, those are come fuck me pumps.
Who said that?
The elderly client said that to me.
Oh.
And I was like, OMG. I was like, I was so amused,
Unexpected.
internally amused. I didn't, I kept my therapeutic bearing. But I was like, wow, this lady knows what that is. And the fact that she would think that these sandals are that cracked me up. And I've never worn them since. I have never worn them since.
You just hear her comment.
Just like, well, every time I look at them, I mean, I've worn them like out to dinner, but like I've never worn them in the office ever again.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out how the fuck we have so many therapists that think that they should be showing up as themselves in therapy. I don't get it.
But is that something that's being taught in the graduate schools? Is that a social work thing?
That's not what I learned.
Everything, but
that is not what I learned.
That is not what I learned either.
It's what makes you are your biases and your transferences. That is what creates you, your ego, all of those things. And there's no fucking place for it in a therapy room.
No.
You can believe in women's rights and egalitarianism, and you can be a social justice warrior and all that, but does that mean you can't sit with an overtly racist client?
Well, if you read these Facebook posts, you would come to the conclusion that these people cannot, because brings up another subject. How many of these posts over the past 8 years have we seen where they're like, my client is a right winger and a Trump supporter. I have to, cancel therapy with them and refer them out. That's bonkers to me.
Yeah. And then the vetting for like Christian therapy, that's something that's really aggravated me also. Like seeking a Christian therapist for this. And half the time it'll talk about their sexuality and it not being heteronormative. I'm like, what? That's your starting point, is to refer them to a Christian-based therapist with their own values and beliefs. Like someone who's marketing Christian therapy, they're probably gonna be pretty damn extreme with their belief systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like you're funneling them right back into like the direct potential of harm. I don't get it.
Well, exactly. And
so I have to speak up sometimes because it's soul sucking. Because I think about like all these people that are being unintentionally harmed, and some of the therapists are just so boastful about their own integrity, and it's backwards.
I think we got to figure out though where this is coming from, like reverse engineer the rot. because you're right. This is not how I was trained. This was not how you were trained. So it's coming from somewhere, and it's being enabled, supported, and reinforced.
Like you're doing all that introspective work in grad school so that you don't allow it to show up in session.
So is that then where the rot is coming from? People are not doing their own individual or group therapy, or not having enough experiences during graduate school to create self-reflection?
Yeah, maybe. But I also think, like, if you're walking around and you want to wear a specific thing because that makes you feel empowered, I'm all for it. I don't care. Like, great. I believe in that. I think that anyone should be able to wear whatever the fuck they want, starting at 2 years old, or whatever they can dress and pick things out. Let them wear whatever they want. Mm-hmm. Don't care. And that should carry on the rest of your life based on your experiences and consequence and reward based on what you wear. What I don't get is how we think we need to bring all of that into a therapy room.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. Like, all these different social issues and religious beliefs and value scripts as therapists. Why are we bringing that into the office? Because it's supposed to be an environment where the client is to review their own beliefs, their own values, mm-hmm. their own historical contexts, their own past, present connections, not ours.
I mean, that brings up the idea of, tabula rasa, right? Like, that's the goal for the therapist, to be as tabula rasa, as whiteboard as mm-hmm. possible, while understanding it's impossible.
Correct.
And I think that frustrates me when I read these Facebook group posts, or, do peer consultation with other therapists, or even when you and I were working at the Substance Use Treatment Center and we'd interact with the therapists we hired or our interns, and they would make highly biased comments about clients and not even self-reflect and think, oh shit, that was a highly biased client comment.
Yeah, they think everyone believes and thinks that. So they're just claiming the objectivity. Yeah, which therein lies another issue when you don't expose and reflect on biases, is that you assume everyone else believes that. And there's where you get the echo chamber. And someone like myself comes in, says something that sparks some level of need to critical think and self-reflect on your own experience. And they go on the attack because it's uncomfortable. And it's truly sad, right? I took a risk to not just share, but to self-disclose and instill my trust in these people. I mean, to some degree, I assumed I was going to get some heckling, not as much as I did. And to experience the conditional empathy, really, and the unprofessionalism that that was displayed by a lot of people. It felt like I was in a fucking gym locker room in high school.
How so? Like, tell me more about that.
Like, just the immaturity and the aggressiveness and the lashing out.
Okay.
By some of those people. And then the condescension. It's like, it's one of them tried to articulate some therapeutic response about, I'm sorry that you had these kind of men in your life to
I remember that
be
comment,
the role model for you. Like, I was infinitely condescending. And I just responded with like, yeah, you're right. I need to go to therapy to process my heterosexuality. Thank you. You fucking moron. Insane.
I think that should be your tagline, like your dharma is obviously, putting the cracks in the echo chamber.
It really is. Because I do that with clients too. They have their own internal echo chamber or their family systems echo chamber. Mm-hmm. Like it starts at a local small level, but we're finding infinite more issue now that we can interact with billions of people simultaneously.
Yeah. I think you should definitely specialize in family therapy.
Yeah,
like, just make that your sole bread and butter.
I'm good at it.
I think so. I mean, I think you have the bandwidth to balance all of those voices at one time.
It also, ironically, it feels like less work for me. People be like, I don't know how you do couples or family or groups. I wish I could do groups more at all, actually. But private practice, it's hard to get people to agree to it. But it actually usually feels like less work for me because the work is getting them to interact. It's not like, I think one-on-one therapy, everything's coming in from them into me and then back to them. Whereas couples, you want to get to the point where, it'll initially start like someone shares, comes to me, and then I echo it to the other person. But ultimately you want it to go back and forth to them. It's like that transactional analysis, I to thou or whatever. And then family therapy, everything, it's as though I'm sitting in the circle in the middle, everyone's sharing into me, and then I'm reflecting back. Ultimately, I then get into the edge of the circle and I'm a part of that system. And then with group, it's similar, where it's initially I'm the circle, and within the bigger circle, everything's coming into me. And then I step away and allow that process to function and I'm like the 12th person out of the 11. But it actually, oftentimes, if done correctly, feels like less work.
Yeah, I think that would be that's obviously the hallmark of whether you're, I mean, I don't want to say doing a good job because that sounds so trite, but yeah, if it ultimately doesn't feel draining for you, then you've got good boundaries and
And just like realistic expectations of the process, I think is important within individual or couples or family. It's like, how do you say it? Like, what am I in contract to do here? What
are we contracting to do?
So I think like, I did family dynamic stuff today and there was a lot of silence and ambivalence. And I'm just like, I could pressure myself to be animated and engage and increase interaction. And I need to at some point, but the silence is important and they're all interacting by sitting in the same space. And that might be all that's realistic right now. So like having that awareness and then just taking a breath and be like, oh, this is just what it is right now. It's not my responsibility to have this like highly interactive dynamic right now. That probably would actually do harm. So just allow the silence to be.
Yeah.
What the fuck do I know? I mean, they know how to interact more than I do right now. Maybe the silence and being in the same space is more than enough.
Well, I encourage, and maybe we need to do some research on transference and countertransference, but I definitely, and then as it pertains to self-reflection, because you should write like an opinion paper and, post it to like the American Counseling Association Journal or something.
You're going to you'll be my editor because
I'll have to be your editor.
Yeah, you might not want to say that.
Tone you down. Word choice, Evan, word choice.
Yeah, Evan didn't write this. He actually just went on a podcast rant and then I edited and surmised it.
I'll scratch out you fucking bitches and replace it with colleagues.
Yeah, so I think we need to do a better job in any kind of social grouping on the internet, especially to, if we're in professional group spaces, we need to be professional.
I am so surprised the moderators didn't get involved.
Well, they probably sided with them.
Oh, God.
But it's like that in that essence, right? Is that we need to know where we're at. And if we're on like professional group pages for our businesses, we need to be professional regardless of whatever the context of the comments are.
Yeah.
And respectful and have different views. And like, I'm not attacking anyone. Not one time did I attack someone. I'm like trying to defend myself.
But I think you also did a very good job of pointing out the ridiculousness of the argument without going on an ad hominem attack or using some other sort of like cognitive bias as a rhetorical tool, which you did not do.
Yeah.
Well, did anybody come out and apologize?
I didn't look at it. I turned off the comments because I was just like, this is gross. I hadn't looked at it until today. I can
It really did devolve. It did become gross. You're right. That's a good use of the word. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 people with some semblance of professionalism and awareness of what we're talking about, and the other 95% are just aggressive and condescending and closed off. But that's what happened in grad school too. I would say shit in classes and people would freak the fuck out.
Really?
Yeah, especially like multicultural. Yeah, for sure.
But like if you were to, and I'm not making any generalizations here, but if you were to think about your graduate school class, how is it broken down ethnically, like percentages?
I'd say like 80% white women.
Really?
Middle-aged, or no, I would say like 20 to 40 middle-aged white women.
20 to 40% middle-aged white women?
Ages 20 to 40, like 24 to 50 ages.
24 to 50, but yet 80% of the class
white male or white women. Yeah.
And by white you mean like Anglo-Saxon?
Very white.
Okay.
And from wealthy families.
Mm-hmm. That's wild.
The white knights.
Oh, yeah. Those are the most dangerous people warriors. Ever. The white liberals. Yeah.
The ones that tell the black people in Seattle, hey, I'll walk with you to work today.
Please don't.
Yeah. What the fuck? Get away from me. Yeah. Oh. I think we had a productive episode. Maybe I shouldn't, I probably shouldn't tag them in the episode because then they'll like, I'll probably run into someone with a personality disorder and they'll report me to the board or something. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think we didn't attack anybody. I think we're just broadly speaking about patterns that we recognize, especially as, you know, as evident within this exchange.
And regardless of what someone wants to conceptualize about me sharing my experience, they've shown all their cards, which is I'm activated. I have experienced some kind of harm in the past. And the way in which that I respond to it now is to attack and be an aggressor. Mm-hmm. That's what you've shown. Clearly. And that is the biggest indicator that you need to heal those hurt parts. Mm-hmm. When you have a rage response to defend and protect your shame.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Period. I mean, there's nothing else to say there.
No, I mean, that's it. I mean, because one step further, if they're doing that in a professional group, they're going to do that to a client.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're doing it there, you're going to do it anywhere.
Yeah.